In this video, we're going to do an accessibility review of the OnePlus 11. Let's do it. Hi everyone, it's Carrie on Accessibility, and I talk about technology and accessibility. If you're interested in that type of video, go double tap on that subscribe button and that would be amazing. The OnePlus 11 was released February 16th and I've had it for a while now. I've been testing it as my daily driver for about a week now, and it's good and bad. If there's something in particular you're looking for, make sure to check out the video chapters. Before we get into the details of its accessibility, let's quickly go over some of its specs. It has a 6.7-inch display, 3216 by 1440 pixels, and 120 hertz refresh rate. It has a triple camera setup, with the main camera is a 50 megapixel camera. It has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor and 8 gigs of RAM, and it starts out with 128 gigs, non-expandable, and it has a 5000 milliamp battery. It also has Android 13 and Oxygen OS. I did do a live stream of the unboxing and part of the setup, and I will link that in the YouTube cards and in the description below. It was a little bit different than unboxing a Pixel or a Samsung. Let's go over the design for the OnePlus 11. First off, it is pretty large. It's comparable to the Samsung S22 and 23 Ultra, the Google Pixel 7 Pro, and this is the size that I definitely prefer. It's pretty nice to hold. The edges are pretty rounded and the corners are also round. Because the edges are rounded, so from the back toward the front, it actually feels kind of nice in the hand even without a case, but that might not be super relevant because most people just put a case. On the back, it has one big camera bump, and this houses the flash and the 3 different camera sensors. It's definitely a different design, but it's still fine. The selfie camera is a hole punch at the top left of the screen. As is typical now, the bezels are really small. On the left edge is the volume rocker, and on the right edge is the side key for powering it on and off. And right above that, on the right edge, is a mute switch. All the way to the bottom is ring, in the middle is vibrate, and at the top is silent. The mute slider has a ridged feel to it, kind of like the side of a quarter or a dime, and it's easy enough to change, but it's not too easy that if it's rolling around in your bag, it won't accidentally change it for you. Now let's jump into the accessibility on this phone. First of all, the accessibility menu is hidden, which really bothers me. Why are you hiding the accessibility menu? When I first started using it, I had to go to settings and I just kept going through it and going through. I'm like, where is accessibility? Did I miss it? And I scrolled through the menu a couple times and I couldn't figure it out. There was an item that said special features and I tried to look through that menu and it wasn't there. And then I finally found additional settings. Additional settings, yes. Accessibility is under additional settings. I'm just gonna come right out and say that that is terrible. I did not like that at all. And it really leaves a bad taste in my mouth to think that they want to hide the accessibility settings. Another major problem I had was the fact that there was this watermark when you have TalkBack on, and it literally says it in like really pale gray font so that low vision users can't see it, I guess. TalkBack is running, and I'm pretty sure it gave instructions on how to turn off TalkBack for sighted users. Why? Stop it. Stop it. No. I do not like that at all. It took me forever to figure out that there's actually an option for that. You have to go to accessibility and not TalkBack settings, no, but the menu before that. So you go into accessibility and then you find TalkBack, and there you can toggle TalkBack on, turn off the watermark, or turn it on. I don't know why you would turn it on, and also control the TalkBack shortcut. That's where it is. Also, the launcher is just not great. I did not like the stock launcher. I would probably recommend changing the launcher if you are going to use this phone. You can use it, of course, but there are some things that I will get into a little later. When it comes to low vision accessibility, Samsung and iPhone, I think, still has a better screen. Even though the Samsung S23 is a lower resolution, the screen just feels so much better. The blacks are just so black. There's just so much more contrast to it. Even the Pixel is better for me because one big major thing is that it has some rainbowing. When the screen is white or like a really light color, and it's probably because I put my face very close to the screen, I can see like little rainbow things, and I'm sure they probably didn't do any testing with really nearsighted people and people who would like hold their phone that close. So probably most people don't really notice that, but for me, I definitely notice that. It's supposed to be an OLED screen, but I've never seen that kind of rainbowing on other phones, so I don't know. It's just weird to me. Still, it is a good enough screen. The brightness can go decently high. Still not as bright as the iPhone or the Samsungs, but it's probably on par with the Pixel. If you're looking for low vision settings like larger fonts, display zoom, bold fonts, you're not going to find it in the accessibility menu. You have to go into display. Typically on Android, you'll have it in both places, but on OnePlus, it's only in display. The font size options on it is pretty much the same as typical Androids, but the display zoom or the display size, there's only 3 options. There's large, standard, and small. I did choose the large, and it actually did pretty well. It still can't go as large as, say, the Samsung devices, but it's decent. It's okay. And I think it can actually be larger than the Pixels. However, there isn't really a bold option. It has its own system font and you can control how bold that is, but even if you turn it up to the maximum boldness, it's not that bold for me. So I just stuck with the Roboto, which was actually not too thin. In my case, I still wish that there was a bold font option, which is on Samsung and Pixels. There also didn't seem to be a way to turn off transparency effects. When I swiped down from the top for notifications, there was a transparent background, and that really it's disorienting for me to have that. A lot of the interface is very gray, and I wish the grays were darker. So basically their dark mode just doesn't feel dark enough for me. There were some things that were really hard for me to find. For example, in notifications, there is no clear all button at the bottom right, which is typical for Android. It has a gray button on gray, so it's like a gray round button that's on top of a gray background, and it has no label, it's just an X. That is how you clear your notifications, and that took me a while to find. I kept looking around, scrolling down, and it would close the notification shade, and so I'd reopen it. I'm like, where do I have to manually swipe it? So for a while I was like manually swiping away notifications. Yeah, I'm just glad that I did find the X, but it's still kind of hard to see. Let's move on to screen reader accessibility. For the most part, it was a decent enough experience. TalkBack is running the latest Google TalkBack from the Play Store, which is great. Everything's working in that aspect. However, like, the system wasn't fully built with accessibility in mind. After all, they hid the accessibility settings. It's not top of mind for OnePlus. So their launcher is not the most accessible. There were things in the settings that I couldn't control with TalkBack. For example, even font size. I'm like, I just want to move the slider, and it was really hard to do that with TalkBack. I couldn't like swipe up and down to change how much font there was. Another example was in the recent apps, there are some buttons there that I can visually see that's not accessible with TalkBack. In the quick settings area of the notification shade, TalkBack doesn't go in order. So it'll read Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and then go to your notifications instead of reading the brightness and the other controls there. You can find them by Explore by Touch, but it's just not in order. It's those little things. There were some other problems too, especially during setup. There was no guidance for fingerprint with TalkBack. It didn't tell you to move or where the fingerprint scanner was, and that was a big problem for me. I did notice that sometimes I had a problem with double tapping. It was really strange. Sometimes it'll move my focus somewhere else instead of double tapping. I did get around that by double tapping a little harder, and once I did that, it worked a lot better. On the Pixel, I feel like I can double tap more lightly and it can still work, whereas this one I'm like, okay, I'm going to be super intentional about it so that it'll work. A weird thing is the focus indicator line that shows where the focus is for TalkBack on the home screen and certain other areas that is part of like the OnePlus like system. It makes the focus indicator pale. I chose blue, and it's supposed to be like a bright blue, and it is bright blue in a lot of cases and in a lot of apps, but when you go to the home screen and you're swiping around, like I can barely see the focus indicator because it's like a dark blue. I don't really understand what's going on there. That's just a very strange experience. Another thing is it kind of has less TTS options. At least with Pixel 7 Pro, you get like the high quality voices, which I'm still waiting for Google to push out to more devices. And then Samsung, you have like the Samsung TTS voices as well. Unless you want to use eSpeak or RH voice and something, you're just going to be most likely using the Google speech voices, which is kind of disappointing. There are some other TalkBack quirks on the OnePlus or the Oxygen OS system, but when you're actually using other apps, TalkBack works as well as it does with other Android devices. Now let's talk about more general accessibility. I was really impressed with the speakers on this device. It sounded really good, and I think it was comparable to the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I'm not an audiophile, so maybe other people might not agree, but for me it sounded really great. The OnePlus 11 has like a supercharge, which charges it super fast, which is amazing. I can plug it in for 10 minutes and I don't know, it can charge like 30% or more. However, even if the battery is 5,000 and it has a supercharger, the battery seems to run out faster than even the Samsung Galaxy S23 or like my other devices. I'm not really sure what's eating up all the battery. On most days, I can get through the whole day without charging it, but there are days that with heavier use that I can't. Now, one thing that I've been wanting Android phones to have is the mute switch like iPhone has. And I will say it is so nice to have the mute switch on the OnePlus 11. And it's like a slider. There's 3 options. All the way down is ring. In the middle is vibrate. And if you push it all the way up, it is silent. And it comes with vibrations. And for me, it's actually easier to remember. Down is for ring, middle is for vibrate, and at the top is silent. Than it is for like the iPhone, where, you know, it's, what is it again? I already forgot. Putting it up toward the screen, I think, is unmute, and then forward is mute. I'm pretty sure that's how it is. Just the way that it's laid out, it makes a lot more sense being like a slider that goes up and down for me. The problem is that TalkBack doesn't announce it. It'll just kind of vibrate. And for me, that haptic feedback is enough, and maybe just remembering which one is where. But it would just still really be nice for TalkBack to say ring, vibrate, silent, something like that. It also has a fingerprint scanner under the screen. It is an optical sensor, so it will flash that bright light at you every time you put your thumb on it. One thing I really like is the sensor seems to be bigger than on the Pixel or even the Samsung. So while you can't turn it on or unlock it while the screen is off, I felt like I could hit that fingerprint sensor a lot more of the time than the other phones. It was an okay experience for me. I don't prefer it. I prefer the Samsung. Even with the talkback being delayed, I'm really just not a big fan of Occident OS. I'd rather use the Pixel or the Samsung, but it's still a good choice, I think, if the things I mentioned in this video don't really bother you. I really did like the Supercharge, and also it retails for $6.99. I would say that's a pretty good price. There are some compromises for that price. Still a nice phone. One small thing is the fact that the back is glossy. It's really glossy. And sometimes when I pick it up, I'm like, oh, which is the front and which is the back? Because they both kind of almost feel the same. And I just have to kind of feel up and look for that camera bump. And oh, that's the way I'm supposed to hold it. So I think if you put a case on it, then it'll be easier to figure that out. But I just did have that problem since I didn't actually get a case for this. So that's the accessibility on the OnePlus 11. What did you think? Do you think that it's a good idea to hide the accessibility settings in the additional settings menu? Does that not bother you, or do you think I'm overreacting with that one? Let me know in the comments. And if there's any other products that you want me to review, leave those down in the comments too. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up below, and don't forget to subscribe. That's it for this one. I'll catch you in the next one. And it starts off with 128 gigs, non-expandables, and it's actually really nice to feel like to put your finger around this. I don't know, I guess I'm that type of person that just kind of fidgets, so I'm like, trace this big round circle on the back, which was probably not the best thing for the camera. What was I talking about?